Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bible Smack. Today I'm going to go ahead and go over another series of American history from a New Testament Christian perspective. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. And this reads backwards the other way. Okay, let's do that. That's not bad. Pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I'll make a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path, and hide words in my heart, that I may not sin against God. In Joshua chapter 24, I'll start at verse 19. And Joshua said unto the people, Ye cannot serve the Lord, for he is an holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions nor your sins. If ye forsake the Lord and serve strange gods, then he will turn and do you hurt and consume you. After that he hath done you good. And the people said unto Joshua, Nay, but we will serve the Lord. And Joshua said unto the people, Ye are witnesses against yourselves, that ye have chosen you the Lord to serve him. And they said, We are witnesses. And now, what we're going to go through today is just some parts of the early American history. We talked a little bit about the Revolutionary War. Now, part of this project is not to give another review of secular history, okay? It's really to look at U.S. history from the worldview of a New Testament Christian and to see how all that, kind of unfolds. So, we talked a little bit about the Revolutionary War and the start of the new nation. Now, we hit the War of 1812. Now, the War of 1812, from the secular perspective of what I've seen, seems kind of uneventful, maybe good political innuendos, but, they just really didn't have a lot of energy to kind of say that this was, it wasn't the Revolution, right? It wasn't going to be the Civil War, it's just like that much more than the Spanish-American War, all right? So basically what's going on is that Britain and France are actually in their war, in the Napoleonic Wars, and basically Britain is mishandling America because when it comes to their trade and stuff like that, because basically they don't want America trading with France and helping France out while they're at war with France. And basically some of the soldiers are mistreated. Ironically, a new king steps in, and the situation is handled around 1811. But, this is not, to the technology age, and a lot of people didn't understand it, so they had gone to war anyway. So then you have, you have three big parts of this conflict. You have the situation with the British. You have the situation in Canada, and then you have the situation with the Native Americans. There's also drama that's going on down south. One of the great battles, which was actually kind of like after the War of 1812 ended, but still was a pretty good battle, involved Andrew Jackson winning his battle. Basically, I want to look at some of the themes that we've seen in the previous confrontations to kind of help us understand the context, because the secularists have no clue of the context because they're far removed. One thing is, just remember, is that 1812 is close to the 1700s, 1700s is close to the 1600s, and feudalism and all that kind of stuff. You really have to understand that, Even though there might be people looking to the future who are getting into these, you know, utopian types of ideals and modernistic society and stuff like that. Even though there is a looking forward, they are living in a context with the foundation of their previous history. So the big thing in religion is the Protestantism versus Catholicism. And then the thing in the politics is the feudalism versus the capitalism slash moving on to socialism and Marxism, things like that. So basically, those are kind of, the background there. And so a lot of people, in this generation want to frame the founding fathers as all a bunch of racists because they're white. Uh, because they were ruled by men, all these different things. And so, basically they paint the Native Americans and, these poor guys, and they got taken over. But if you go back and look at my video talking about the French and Indian War, I think that would help a lot more when I talk about this issue, because it is a rehashing. History does repeat itself, and so this is what's going on there. Basically, the deal is that the British and the French had really made strong efforts to get the Native Americans to have a bad taste in their mouth in regards to America. And they would continue that. The Native Americans would become dominated by Jesuit missionaries over the next 100 or so years. So these Jesuits, who were, really organized to be counter-Reformation, to be against anything Protestant, basically they really poisoned this group with these ideas of the hatred. And you hear about, like, I don't want to serve a white man's God. Well, I mean, I don't know if Jesus was white, at least the way we're understanding white to be. And basically, you have many different cultures, and all it is a breeding of racism. The ideas of Marx is something in the ideas of the Jesuits. In Marx you say, hey, poor man, hey, minority, don't you hate the other guy? Don't you covet what he has? He's so bad. But then you see the hypocrisy that's going to go on here, because, it's the Americans who are, relatively poor when you look at the price and the cost of land. The socialists, and there probably were, slightly secular, slightly liberal types, especially with that, we talk about the Freemasons and all these secular and the deist ideas and stuff like that. They're looking at the Indian and they're thinking, okay, he's got all this land. This one guy has about 50 to 100 miles of territory. Never see him, And, because they'll mention, the liberals will keep on mentioning, oh, they were outnumbered, So in other words, oh, they had all this land and all this property. And, what would a modern liberal say? He'd say, how dare you? We need to tax them until we get rid of all their land and all their property. So basically, it was kind of the natural man to kind of say, hey, I want to move out. I'm tired of living in this crappy little town. I want to go out and venture, and I want to start a farm, and I want to go out, and I want to expand and stuff like that. Can't you give a brother a break? I mean, it's just, these were the little guys, okay? And basically, it was kind of a liberal idea that was giving them that kind of, oh, hey, let me kind of venture out a little bit. So they wanted territory. They wanted to have the American dream. And it gets irritating with a group of people that, they're not farming the land. They're like, no, the land owns me, which means there's no progress, okay? So basically, they had some good ideas. They were going to go out and they were going to, step forward. And basically, that's kind of the American issue there. So basically, and this is one of the problems, is that The American attitude doesn't allow for property rights. If you don't have property rights, you don't have capitalism. If you don't have capitalism, you don't have progress. You don't make money, and then nobody want to come over here anyway. Well, anyway, so that's what's going on there, and that just rehashes itself from the French and Indian War. The Canadians, they have a stronger Catholic base, Catholic ideology. The Catholic ideology goes along with the feudalism politic, and basically they're big government. Okay, they're big government liberals. Okay, this is so shocking, right? Modern Canada socialism. Oh no way. In Canada, big government, no way. So basically, with that idea, all right, Canada's looking at Britain. Britain's a big empire. All right, America's just a little guy. America's a little guy. Hey, come on, you can be independent. Oh, are you going to take care of us, America? No, I'm just going to hang out here, okay? More power to you. So basically, they just really could not convince the Canadians to join them in this epic battle. And, there is some intervention ideas that America has, and that aren't really working out very well. And eventually, once Britain's attention is off of France, then they show their wrath to America and they burn down the White House and all that kind of stuff. So not too pretty. Well, let me go ahead and mention a little other side note, and that is you have Madison at this time, James Madison. He is actually, I think he's the first Roman Catholic president. He is from out there in Virginia. But he pushed for the First Amendment to be made, and gave him protections because Catholics weren't treated very well at that point in the colonies. When you look at their dealings with the other nations, the Protestant country, you can see why that is. But actually, his ideas about religious liberty were actually the Baptist ideas of religious liberty. There was a Baptist minister named Harold Leland who was running against him. And basically, Leland knew that he couldn't win, but he could stop Madison. And so he said, I'll tell you what, how about you push for religious liberty, and then I'll let you win. And so the First Amendment looks a lot like the Baptist Confession's statement on religious liberty, okay, because they ripped off us. That sounds great. But let me read this statement to you. I think most times we think of this as positive, and of course there's a lot of positive to it, but let's look at this, okay? This is something that James said. They used to call him Frail Jimmy. That was his nickname. It says, we have staked the whole future of American civilization not upon the power of government, far from it. We have staked the future of all our political institutions upon the capacity of mankind for self-government, upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves, to sustain ourselves according to the 10 Commandments of God. Now, there's a reason why I had why I read that passage from Joshua chapter 24 to you. Because the switcheroo is not the self-governing issue. Okay, because we believe that, God can govern us. It's the fact that instead of relying on God to govern man through the people, through the reading of his word, instead it was man following the 10 Commandments. Even in Roman Catholicism, that would be called Pelagianism and heresy. Because man by nature falls apart. You have to have more than just knowing the truth. The only way that we can come even close to following the truth, and we still wouldn't, would be if we were born again of the Holy Spirit. If we have faith in Jesus Christ, and we have been changed and justified and saved, then we could hope about getting more lawful. But you see, that was the twist, because we had a Baptist idea, and then a Catholic put a little twist at that end, which I think America has failed from ever since. And we're just going to go ahead, and I will catch you later on the next episode of Bible Smack Radio for American history from a New Testament Christian perspective.